integrated. Don't let anyone tell you what your career should be just because you are a woman. Let your back. Do not stop chasing your dreams. Chase it, and you will definitely achieve. My name is Kavya. I am Malini Subbarao. My name is Anita Rao. I am Deepa Mohan. I am Vinny. My name is Sai Radhika. I am Maninder Kaur. One woman's success is an inspiration to another. As women, we should not doubt our skills, talents, and accomplishments. Research and science is what you want to do. It requires an extra level of commitment, but also it gives you a perspective of universe, life, everything. Science and everyday life cannot and should not be separated. Life and science are part of each other, and we should keep it integrated. Don't let anyone tell you what your career should be just because you are a woman. Let your creativity, curiosity, and your passion guide you in your career choice. Sometimes circumstances may not be in your favor, but you stay positive and focused. The solution will always be within your reach. If you like science, just go for it. It will give you tremendous opportunities to learn, to explore, to interact with people. If you're passionate about something, it doesn't matter what hurdles you face, you'll always overcome it. Women can make a huge impact. Do not stop chasing your dreams, chase it, and you will definitely achieve it. My name is Kavya. I am Malini Subbarao. My name is Anita Rao. I am Deepa Mohan. I am Vinny. My name is Sai Radhika. I am Maninder Kaur. One woman's success is an inspiration to another. As women, we should not doubt our skills, talents, and accomplishments. Research and science is what you want to do. It requires an extra level of commitment, but also it gives you a perspective of universe, life, everything. Science and everyday life cannot and should not be separated. Life and science are part of each other, and we should keep it integrated. Don't let anyone tell you what your career should be just because you are a woman. Let your creativity, curiosity, and your passion guide you in your career choice. Sometimes circumstances may not be in your favor, but you stay positive and focused. The solution will always be within your reach. If you like science, just go for it. It will give you tremendous opportunities to learn, to explore, to interact with people. If you're passionate about something, it doesn't matter what hurdles you face, you'll always overcome it. Women can make a huge impact. Do not stop chasing your dreams, chase it, and you will definitely achieve You're passionate about something, it doesn't matter what hurdles you face, you'll always overcome it. Movement can make a huge impact. Do not stop chasing your dreams, chase it and you will definitely achieve it. My name is Kavya. I am Malini Subbarao. My name is Anita Rao. I am Deepa Mohan. I am Vinny. My name is Sai Radhika. I am Maninder Kaur. One woman's success is an inspiration to another. As women, we should not doubt our skills, talents, and accomplishments. Research and science is what you want to do. It requires an extra level of commitment, but also it gives you a perspective of universe, life, everything. Science and everyday life cannot and should not be separated. Life and science are part of each other and we should keep it integrated. Don't let anyone tell you what your career should be just because you are a woman. Let your creativity, curiosity, and your passion guide you in your career choice. Sometimes circumstances may not be in your favor, but you stay positive and focused. The solution will always be within your reach. If you like science, just go for it. It will give you tremendous opportunities to learn, to explore, to interact with people. If you're passionate about something, it doesn't matter what hurdles you face, you'll always overcome it. Movement can make a huge impact. Do not stop chasing your dreams, chase it and you will definitely achieve it. My name is Kavya. I am Malini Subbarao. My name is Anita Rao. I am Deepa Mohan. I am Vinny. My name is Sai Radhika. I am Maninder Kaur. One woman's success is an inspiration to another. As women, we should not doubt our skills, talents, and accomplishments. Research and science is what you want to do. It requires an extra level of commitment, but also it gives you a perspective of universe, life, everything. Science and everyday life cannot and should not be separated. Life and science are part of each other and we should keep it integrated. Don't let anyone tell you what your career should be just because you are a woman. Let your creativity, curiosity, and your passion guide you in your career choice. Sometimes circumstances may not be in your favor, but you stay positive and focused. The solution will always be within your reach. If you like science, just go for it. It will give you tremendous opportunities to learn, to explore, to interact with people. If you're passionate about something, it doesn't matter what hurdles you face, you'll always overcome it. Movement can make a huge impact. Do not stop chasing your dreams, chase it and you will definitely achieve it. My name is Kavya. I am Malini Subbarao. My name is Anita Rao. I am Deepa Mohan. I am Vinny. My name is Sai Radhika. I am Maninder Kaur. One woman's success is an inspiration to another. As women, we should not doubt our skills, talents, and accomplishments. Research and science is what you want to do. It requires an extra level of commitment, but also it gives you a perspective of universe, life, everything. Science and everyday life cannot and should not be separated. Life and science are part of each other and we should keep it integrated. Don't let anyone tell you what your career should be just because you are a woman. Let your creativity, curiosity, and your passion guide you in your career choice. Circumstances may not be in your favor, but you stay positive and focused. The solution will always be within your reach. If you like science, just go for it. It will give you tremendous opportunities to learn, to explore, to interact with people. If you're passionate about something, it doesn't matter what hurdles you face, you'll always overcome it. Movement can make a huge impact. Do not stop chasing your dreams, chase it and you will definitely achieve it. My name is Kavya. I am Malini Subbarao. My name is Anita Rao. I am Deepa Mohan. I am Vinny. My name is Sai Radhika. I am Maninder Kaur. One woman's success is an inspiration to another. As women, we should not doubt our skills, talents, and accomplishments.
Research and science is what you want to do. It requires an extra level of commitment, but also it gives you a perspective of universe, life, everything.
Science and everyday life cannot and should not be separated. Life and science are part of each other and we should keep it integrated.
Don't let anyone tell you what your career should be just because you are a woman. Let your creativity, curiosity, and your passion guide you in your career choice.
Sometimes circumstances may not be in your favor, but you stay positive and focused. The solution will always be within your reach.
If you like science, just go for it. It will give you tremendous opportunities to learn, to explore, to interact with people.
If you're passionate about something, it doesn't matter what hurdles you face, you'll always overcome it.
Women can make a huge impact. Do not stop chasing your dreams, chase it and you will definitely achieve it. My name is Kavya. I am Malini Subbarao.
My name is Anita Rao.
I am Deepa Mohan.
I am Vinny. My name is Sai Radhika.
I am Maninder Kaur. One woman's success is an inspiration to another.
As women, we should not doubt our skills, talents, and accomplishments.
Research and science is what you want to do. It requires an extra level of commitment, but also it gives you a perspective of universe, life, everything.
Science and everyday life cannot and should not be separated. Life and science are part of each other and we should keep it integrated.
Don't let anyone tell you what your career should be just because you are a woman. Let your creativity, curiosity, and your passion guide you in your career choice.
Sometimes circumstances may not be in your favor, but you stay positive and focused. The solution will always be within your reach.
If you like science, just go for it. It will give you tremendous opportunities to learn, to explore, to interact with people.
If you're passionate about something, it doesn't matter what hurdles you face, you'll always overcome it.
Women can make a huge impact. Do not stop chasing your dreams, chase it and you will definitely achieve it. My name is Kavya. I am Malini Subbarao.
My name is Anita Rao.
I am Deepa Mohan.
I am Vinny. My name is Sai Radhika.
I am Maninder Kaur. One woman's success is an inspiration to another.
As women, we should not doubt our skills, talents, and accomplishments.
Research and science is what you want to do. It requires an extra level of commitment, but also it gives you a perspective of universe, life, everything.
Science and everyday life cannot and should not be separated. Life and science are part of each other and we should keep it integrated.
Don't let anyone tell you what your career should be just because you are a woman. Let your creativity, curiosity, and your passion guide you in your career choice.
Sometimes circumstances may not be in your favor, but you stay positive and focused. The solution will always be within your reach.
If you like science, just go for it. It will give you tremendous opportunities to learn, to explore, to interact with people.
If you're passionate about something, it doesn't matter what hurdles you face, you'll always overcome it.
Women can make a huge impact. Do not stop chasing your dreams, chase it and you will definitely achieve it. My name is Kavya. I am Malini Subbarao.
My name is Anita Rao.
I am Deepa Mohan.
I am Vinny. My name is Sai Radhika.
I am Maninder Kaur. One woman's success is an inspiration to another.
As women, we should not doubt our skills, talents, and accomplishments.
Research and science is what you want to do. It requires an extra level of commitment, but also it gives you a perspective of universe, life, everything.
Science and everyday life cannot and should not be separated. Life and science are part of each other and we should keep it integrated.
Don't let anyone tell you what your career should be just because you are a woman. Let your creativity, curiosity, and your passion guide you in your career choice.
Sometimes circumstances may not be in your favor, but you stay positive and focused. The solution will always be within your reach.
If you like science, just go for it. It will give you tremendous opportunities to learn, to explore, to interact with people.
If you're passionate about something, it doesn't matter what hurdles you face, you'll always overcome it.
Women can make a huge impact. Do not stop chasing your dreams, chase it and you will definitely achieve it. My name is Kavya. I'm Malini Subbarao.
My name is Anita Rao.
I am Deepa Mohan.
I am Vinny. My name is Sai Radhika.
I am Maninder Kaur. One woman's success is an inspiration to another.
As women, we should not doubt our skills, talents, and accomplishments.
Research and science is what you want to do. It requires an extra level of commitment, but also it gives you a perspective of universe, life, everything.
Science and everyday life cannot and should not be separated. Life and science are part of each other and we should keep it integrated.
Don't let anyone tell you what your career should be just because you are a woman. Let your creativity, curiosity, and your passion guide you in your career choice.
Sometimes circumstances may not be in your favor, but you stay positive and focused. The solution will always be within your reach.
If you like science, just go for it. It will give you tremendous opportunities to learn, to explore, to interact with people.
If you're passionate about something, it doesn't matter what hurdles you face, you'll always overcome it.
Women can make a huge impact. Do not stop chasing your dreams, chase it and you will definitely achieve it. My name is Kavya. I'm Malini Subbarao.
My name is Anita Rao.
I am Deepa Mohan.
I am Vinny.
Hi everyone.
I am Maninder
Good
Kaur.
morning.
One woman's success is an inspiration to another.
I'm so happy to see the house full, and I think we should now start.
Research and
So,
science
a very warm welcome to this special session of She Inspires. It is my extreme pleasure to introduce you to Aditya Ghosh, Chief Mentor, Ladies Who Lead, and Abha Bakaya, entrepreneur and founder, Ladies Who Lead, and a senior journalist and a well-known TV anchor. They are here today with a group of extraordinary women who have built their own enterprise with great passion and determination. Let me quote our quintessential inspirational woman, Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, who led to the genesis of She Inspires platform of Biocon Group. One of my objectives when I started Biocon was to make sure that I create a company for women scientists to pursue a vocation. And quite rightly so, she has built not one, but many companies under Biocon Group, which employ thousands of women scientists. Many of them are here today. Thank you for coming. And many more have joined us virtually. She Inspires is a platform that showcases our women in science who have broken many barriers at the workplace and in their personal life to pursue career and have achieved a remarkable success in making a huge difference to millions of patients across the globe. Each of these women have powerful stories to tell, which inspire the next generation of young women. These inspiring tales of our women in science are available on Biocon Biologics YouTube channel. Moving on to Ladies Who Lead, a unique platform where women express their views fearlessly, share their experiences, and build valuable relationships with other enterprising women. Ladies Who Lead has been founded by Abha Bakaya, a very well-known TV anchor who is currently with Business Today as a senior editor and anchor. Thank you for being here, Abha. Under her leadership, this women-centric group has built a community that empowers, engages, and encourages women to do more with their careers with an overarching objective of co-creating the future together. So without further ado, I would now like to invite Aditya Ghosh, Chief Mentor Ladies Who Lead and co-founder of Akasa Air, and Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, founder and chairperson of Biocon, Biocon Biologics, and Syngene, for the fireside chat. Aditya will host this session followed by a Q&A. Thank you, and over to you, Aditya.
Wow, this is just an absolute pleasure. Look at yourself. If you can just look back, the hall is full. Really super colorful also, actually. That's right. I've got to repeat this story, Kiran. Some of the ladies from last evening know this. So I'm checking in at the hotel in Bangalore, right? And the rest of the team checked in a little bit, separately. So this hotel manager tells me, so the rest of the team has checked in. I said, okay. So he says, so all these are ladies who lead. I said, yes. All ladies. I said, yes. And he looks at me and says, what is your connection, sir? What are you doing here? But thank you for having us here, Kiran, and for hosting us here. Ladies, I have a bunch of questions.
Of course, but first I just want to say, Aditya, that when I heard that you're the chief mentor of Ladies Who Lead, I thought what a phenomenal way of creating such an initiative, because I think men have a very important role to play in leading ladies.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, no, it's been an incredible journey for the last 1 year. We've just launched LWL in Bangalore last evening, and from if morning shows the day or last evening showed what the rest of the year is going to be like, it was like a packed hall. So Kiran, I was reading and I try to prep myself for this. So somebody about 44 years ago described you as a fantastic, enthusiastic, ass-kicking woman who's aggressive, demanding, and would make a great partner. 44 years later, would you describe yourself any different from then?
Well, I think that was a little bit of a pretty honest and raw description of me. But I guess I am a very driven person. Let's put it that way. Whatever I set my mind to, I go for it. I have a deep sense of purpose. I have a deep sense of commitment, and I never give up. So to that extent, I guess people look at me as someone being relentless in my pursuit and someone who really wants to get things done. So I guess that description of me really, is in a very raw way describing what I'm all about. And I know who it is because it was Les Auchincloss.
That's right.
With whom I founded Biocon in India. And I remember when he first made this kind of suggestion to me that he would like me to partner him in setting up Biocon. All of you, I think, know it was at a time when I was being refused a job in a brewery because I was a woman. And when he came and said, why don't you partner me in setting up a biotech company? I said, are you crazy? I said, I'm really not the person who should be partnering you in this venture because I'm a woman. That's the most deterring kind of factor.
Biggest disqualification.
Yes. The second thing is that I have no money to my name. And third, I have zero business experience. I was here trying to pursue a career in brewing. I just want a job. I don't want to start a company. Those were my words. And I said, in a country like India, women are just not welcome to the business world. And when he had a chat with me, he said, "Why are you undermining yourself so much?" He said, "I see you as an ass-kicking woman." That's when he said that.
There was some Irish humor there.
Yeah. So I said, "Really?" So he said, "Yeah, look at the way you're talking. You're so honest. You're telling me what's wrong. Come on, rise to the challenge. Prove to those naysayers that you can do it." That's how he actually goaded me. And although I introduced him to a very successful businessman in Delhi, and I said, "Why don't you take him on as the partner? You know, he's a very successful businessman. He's got lots of money to invest. He's got, everything going for him, and he's the right kind of person." He looked at me and said, "No." He said, "When you want to set up a biotech enterprise, you don't need these kind of entrepreneurs who are sort of generic businessmen. You need an entrepreneur who's willing to take on challenges, because this is a new field. You have to do so many things which are new, unexplored, and things which people have never even thought of. You have that in you. That's why I want you to partner me."
You were 25 years old at that time. Yes.
I was 25 years old,
Yeah.
which was again something that worked against me when it came to banks.
Yeah. So I think I know which public sector bank you're referring to. So, I mean, Kiran, I've got to ask you this. This is 1978. You're a 25-year-old girl who's got a degree in brewing. And like you said, you turn around and say, like, "Are you joking? I mean, I'm really not the person for you." What then took you to the point where you said, "Okay, all right, and I'm going to take that first step to what must have been a very uncertain journey at that point of time"?
Well, actually, it was Les Auchincloss who basically assured me that I would enjoy an entrepreneurial journey. And he said, "If you don't enjoy it, I will find you a job." So with that kind of insurance and assurance, I thought, okay, let me go for it. But once I, of course, stepped into my entrepreneurial shoes, I think there was no looking back, because I just wanted to make a success of it. And, all of us know who, get into these kind of ventures. It's very luring. And once you start doing things, you don't want to give up.
Now I have to share this story with you, Kiran. This is from about, I'd say April of 2008. I'm the general counsel of the Interglobe Group, a lawyer. And Rahul and Rakesh come to me and say that Rahul actually conveyed it to me saying, "We think you should run the business. This is Indigo." I said, "That's an absolutely stupid idea." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I'm a lawyer, never run a business in my life before, don't have a business degree. And I kind of, think that something must have, you're right that sometimes you just take a plunge, probably not knowing everything, but there is that lure of what could be the possibility."
Yeah, I mean, you have a very similar story, because it's like an unexpected opportunity which you've never thought of, and that's why I call myself an accidental entrepreneur.
Tell me more.
No, because I never planned to start a business. I just accidentally met somebody who kind of pushed me into becoming an entrepreneur. And of course, I then discovered that I did have talent. I did have entrepreneurial potential and qualities that make it possible to build a company. So I think every one of us, I'm convinced, has some element of an entrepreneurial streak in us, and it's for us to discover that.
Kiran, a lot of our members would be at a stage where they're either starting off or thinking of on an entrepreneurial journey. And I've realized that a lot of the times, or probably most of the times, we don't take that first step because we're afraid of failure. You in the summer of 1978 had no guarantees that this is going to be success. And while you said you had a bit of an insurance that I'll find a job, how would you have dealt with the personal sort of setback of I failed at this thing?
So as you know, Aditya, the first thing that I always tell all young entrepreneurs is, please try to deal with failure and do not fear failure. because I think every entrepreneur has to be fearless in that sense. Actually, you learn from failure, as we all know. And I think failure is a stepping stone to success, because I think every failure teaches you something very important and very valuable. And I think I always tell people, I said, you see me as this very successful entrepreneur today, but I don't think anyone has really talked about my failures along the way. And I'd really,
What comes to mind?
no, so I really want to write a book on failures, on how I failed and then finally succeeded as an entrepreneur. Because, when I first started off, even though I had this great backing from Les Auchincloss, who gave me this moral courage to get me into entrepreneurship. I think all of you know that I started in a very frugal way in my garage. I had just 10,000 rupees in the bank. And I was so confident that, I was going to get this. I was getting into a joint venture with an Irish company, and I'm sure all these banks would be very happy to lend to me. But I was in for a rude shock. I mean, when I went to the banks door to door, they would just sort of slam the door on me and saying, "Are you kidding? You're too high risk for us to even give a." And those days, there was no venture funding. It was just giving me a high interest loan or a bank credit. And they didn't want to give it to me because they said, "I'm too high risk." They said, you're too young, you're a woman, you have no business experience, and you're trying to run this very strange business, which we've never heard of.
What kind of finally helped to push that door?
So, my life has been about accidental encounters. Okay. So I was, as you saw, going from bank to bank, begging them, pleading with them just to give me a credit line and some small loan to get me off the ground. And I was finding it very difficult to get a yes from any one of them. And then I still remember I went to a wedding reception at Ashoka Hotel. I still remember. And I was introduced to the general manager of Canara Bank. Okay, one Mr. Dinesh Nayak. And I was talking to him. He said, "What do you do?" I said, "Oh, well, I'm trying to run a company. I've started this small company in biotechnology. Oh, tell me about it." And I told him about it. And he said, "Oh, that's very interesting." And I said, "I'm trying to do it all on my own. But, every time I go to banks, they keep asking my father to stand guarantee. And I keep telling them my father has nothing to do with my business. Why should he stand guarantee? I will stand guarantee because that's what you ask other men to do. Why are you not allowing me to stand guarantee?" "No, no, you're too young and you're a woman." They kept telling me that. So this guy said, "Yeah, it's very wrong of them." He said, "Why don't you come and meet me tomorrow in the bank and I'll try and help you." And of course, when I went there, he immediately gave me that credit line. So, you meet these people who understand what you're going through and how sincere and honest you are. And somebody believes in your story, someone believes in you. So that's what happened to me with getting my first bank credit. And then, of course, I've had many other accidental encounters. When I was trying to scale up Biocon, I got, of course, my first term loan, as they used to call it those days, from Karnataka State Financial Corporation. I think they were quite intrigued with what I was trying to do. And again, in those days, they had a very enlightened, chairman and managing director, both of who kind of grilled me in the interview and felt, okay, this is not someone who's a front for anybody. She's trying to do it herself. And they gave me this small term loan. And then a few years later, I was trying to scale up this homegrown technology that we had developed. And I needed a much bigger term loan. So I went back to KSFC. They said, "Oh, this term loan is too big for us. You go to KIDB." There was another bigger financial,
The Industrial
Development Board. So I went there, and of course, they were really flummoxed with biotechnology. They couldn't make sense of it. And they said, "Oh, if we have to give you this money, we need a government scientific institution to evaluate your technology." So they wanted me to share my technology with CFTRI, and only if CFTRI said it's okay, then they would give me the loan. I said, listen, I can't share my technology with CFTRI because my strains are my intellectual property and I cannot share those strains for anyone to work it out. You can come to my lab and see what we're doing, but we cannot share the strain with anybody. They couldn't understand what it was all about. Why not? I said, no, that's biotechnology. Anyway, to cut the long story short, I was finding it very difficult to get them to give me a term loan. And then again, an accidental breakfast meeting with Mr. Vagul, where I was complaining to him and telling him about my sob story of how I was struggling to get this term loan for scaling up a very exciting technology that we had developed in-house. He said, hey, do you know something? I've just set up a venture fund. It's called TDICI, Technology Development and Investment Corporation of India, which is an offshoot of ICICI. This is exactly the kind of business we want to invest in. So he said, forget about this KIDB. You just come to me, give me that same project report that you gave to them, take it as done. In fact, day after tomorrow, I'm having a investment meeting and I will make sure that you get your investment. And then to make things even more interesting for me, they said, I said, so what interest are you going to charge me? He said, no, there's not interest. I'm investing in your company. This is venture funding. I said, really? Explain it to me. And then he explained what venture funding was, because I'd never even thought that people would be investing in my company and taking a stake. So I said, oh, wow, that's fantastic. So I don't have to pay you back. He said, no. So that's how he made the first venture investment in Biocon. And then, of course, they decided to invest even more because they said you're asking for too little. When we look at what you really need, you need to almost double the amount you're asking for. So then they took a 25% stake in the company.
You mentioned your father, right? I was reading about him at the end of the Second World War, mid-40s. He heads off to Scotland, right, to study brewing. I don't know how many people from India were heading off to Edinburgh at that time, and it must have not been easy, right? And at this Indian who just walks off to Scotland to start learning brewing, in a country at that time dealing with prohibition and all kinds of things like that. Clearly, it's genetic. 30 years later, you head off to Australia in the mid-70s. So how much of is Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw the daughter of her father?
Oh, my father was a tremendous influence on me. In fact, I always feel that fathers have such an important role to play in their daughters.
I have a 15-year-old. I hope she's listening to this because I can barely get her to comb her hair. But
no, I think fathers have a very deep influence on daughters, and they have a very important role to play in empowering and enabling their daughters, as we all know. And I'm sure every woman in this room will agree with me. And my late father was an amazing human being. So first and foremost, I have to tell you this little story. When I was in school and I wanted to pursue my, my next course of action, I wanted to be a doctor. So I was trying to get into medical college. And of course, I didn't make it into a medical college because I'd only applied to 2 and I didn't get into either.
Gosh, I have the exactly identical story. I swear, I have the exactly identical story. And I was in class 12, I was studying to be a doctor and didn't study hard enough. Did not make it through the entrance exam. And I remember that entrance exam and I was thinking, when is this 3 hours going to get over? Because I want to get out of this place.
No, I actually went through the entrance exam and I got called for the interview. So I was so confident that I would get in, but I didn't get in. So I was heartbroken. I told my dad, I said, I've just done a little bit of sort of exploration, and I found that Davangere Medical College is willing to give me a seat for 10,000 rupees those days. Huh? So I said, why don't you pay that capitation fee and get me a seat in this college? He said, are you kidding? I will never pay any capitation fee ever to buy any of my kids any kind of a seat. in any university. You work hard, you earn a seat for yourself, because education has to be about merit. Anything in life is about merit, he used to tell me. Never try and buy favors. And so he said, I said, oh, I'm sure if it was Ravi, that's my brother, I'm sure if Ravi wanted a medical college, you would have paid for it. And he said, I wouldn't. He said, look, I'm very fair to all my kids. I said, I don't make a difference because you're a girl and he's a boy. So he taught me about gender equality a long time ago, and he really practiced it. And he told me something very important which has stayed with me even today. He said, Kiran, since you're saying this to me, I want you to remember, money is not a currency to buy favors. Money is a currency to make a difference. And that's why I'm philanthropic.
Yes.
You know, because my father always said money is about making a difference. So anyway, to get back to my father. So when I finished my BSc zoology honors in Bangalore, and I wanted to basically pursue higher education, I'd got I'd been accepted by London University for a genetics PhD program. But then I thought to myself, do I really want to pursue an academic path? So I went to my dad and I said, I know I've got this seat, but I really wonder if there's anything else I can do, because I want, to pursue a career. So I'd rather do something at a master's level, or, something to do with applied science. I'm very fond of science. So what do I do? So he immediately said, why don't you do brewing like me? I said, are you nuts? I mean, I'm a woman. I'm in a country which will where
liquor is not really
is taboo, and a woman pursuing brewing is going to be absolutely crazy. So he said, no, I would look at brewing as biotechnology. I would look at brewing as fermentation science. And that's what you're interested in, right? You've studied microbiology, you've studied biology, and what better use than to apply it in this way? And he was right, because, years later when I started Biocon, I applied all that brewing knowledge.
And even in Australia, you were the only woman in the class.
Yeah, I was. And of course, my father's story also is quite different. He didn't just go from India to Edinburgh like you just mentioned. He actually lost he was studying medicine, in fact, my father, at Grant Medical College in Bombay. And his father suddenly passed away. And so his uncle decided to bring him to Birmingham, because his uncle was a surgeon in Birmingham. So he invited my father to go and intern with him in his practice, in his surgery. And then he said to my father, he said, look, I don't think you can do medicine in the UK. It's too late for you. But let me see if I can get you admission into some program. And then he saw this program in Edinburgh, and he said, how would you like to do a brewing program, a master's in brewing in Edinburgh? And my father just said, okay. So he went. And then, of course, he did very well. And in fact, I got an honorary doctorate from Heriot-Watt University, where he studied. And then he, of course, came back to India years later, because, he was working in the UK as a brewer. And then when they wanted to hire an Indian brewer, my father got that job.
Kiran, if we can go back to this 25-year-old who's starting off as an entrepreneur, many of our members can probably resonate with that. A lot of people these days shy away from building businesses in a highly regulated sector. I come from a highly regulated business. You have, of course, built an iconic business in a regulated sector. But you have dealt with these changing regulations over the past 4 decades. Any lessons on how to sort of deal and engage with the external environment, how to deal and exchange with regulators, with regulations, government,
So you can imagine, I founded a company which was in a very highly regulated environment. In those days, just to start a joint venture with a foreign company.
The heydays of license Raj.
Absolutely. It was 1978. The reforms, economic reforms only happened in 1991. So India was very under-resourced. We had absolutely barely any foreign exchange. And here I was trying to set up a joint venture with an Irish company and start a company in the field of biotechnology, which required quite deep resources. So I had to struggle a lot. But I think what I found, and I'm sure at this point in time, a lot of women also must take full advantage of all the support they're getting from the government, because right now the government wants women to succeed. You know, Nari Shakti and all these things they keep talking about. You must take advantage of that. Because I took full advantage of the fact that I was a woman and I was a rarity in business. So even when I went to my first meeting with a bureaucrat in Delhi, as you say, at the height of the license Raj, and when I was waiting for being called into his room, there were all these touts going around saying, "Aapko license chahiye? Acha, aapko itna dena padega, utna dena padega." So they were busy telling me how much it costs to.
I believe you do not know how to pay a bribe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I said, really? So my first encounter with this bureaucrat was, I'm really scared. I've been approached by all these touts telling me I have to bribe somebody and I have to pay so much bribe. I said, I don't know how to bribe people. I don't know when to bribe, who to bribe, how much to bribe. Now, if I really have to bribe, I don't think I should start my company at all, I told him. He was quite horrified and taken aback with my frankness. So he said, no, not at all. You don't have to pay any bribe. I will help you get your license and don't sit in the corridor. He made a small desk and table in his own office, put, very sweetly. He said, you sit here next time you come. I will tell you how to apply for a license and you will get it, because see, today we need companies that are export oriented.
This is Nirmal Biswas.
Yeah. And that can actually do import substitution. So that's the way you should apply. And he actually helped me to write my application. And finally, when I got it, and I got it in a record time, I got it, I think, in 2 months. So, people do play these roles. And I can tell you, by and large, bureaucrats are very helpful. I want to tell you that.
No, I agree.
And if you meet bureaucrats and tell them what you want and what your challenges are and what your problems are, I would say 9 out of 10 bureaucrat will help you. Okay, that's my experience.
It might take a little time, but I think I guess.
Yeah. So you have to be very honest and you have to actually know what you want. Okay. So if you go and talk to the government officials in this way, I think you will see success.
Are you a movie fan?
Yeah.
Okay. So imagine now you are setting up your Ocean's 11, right? Because now you've got the license, you're this 25-year-old, so now you got the license. So many of our ladies here are setting up their Ocean's 11, 12, and 13. Any tips of how to build teams and create teams?
So obviously, when you're first setting up your company, the first thing that comes to your mind is, oh, I need a finance person. Right? So accountant, in those days, accountant, there was no chief financial officer.
Correct.
Oh, I need an accountant. So obviously I did look out for an accountant. Then somebody says, okay, then I felt I also need somebody to help me with day-to-day secretarial work. So of course I looked for a secretary. But remember, when I started Biocon, I was also very, very focused on being a science-led company, a research-led company. And so I started looking for scientists who could join me. So I think as an entrepreneur, I started looking at how would I start my research. So I needed someone who was a scientist, who could initiate research. What kind of research did I needed to do? Because, I was entering a field where there were no ready-made people. I had to develop them. So some of those positions were easy, like, the accountant, although it wasn't easy those days because nobody wanted to work for a woman employer.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, I'm assuming that some of your initial team members must have been older to you, definitely of a different
And
gender.
those days only men.
Yes.
Because
so how did you?
I couldn't get women.
How do you convince them?
Even women didn't want to work for me. I remember, I was young, as you remember, and I was working out of my garage. I had a very pretty garage. I had converted it into my office. But I used to wear, sort of pretty informal clothing at work.
Before it became fashionable to wear informal clothing to work.
Yeah. So every time, I'd put in very impressive ads in the newspaper. Managing director of a multinational company is looking for X, Y, and Z. And I would have so many applications. So I would sort of glean through these applications, shortlist them, call a few for interviews. And these people would come in, take one look at me and say, oh, we have an interview with the managing director. I would say, oh, that's me, because they'll imagine I'm the secretary. And I'd say, no, that's me. And I'd immediately know they don't want the job. And of course, it was very tough. In fact, I couldn't get even a secretary. And one of my very dear friends, said, I feel so sorry for you. She was a teacher. So she said, look, I'm going to take a sabbatical from teaching and I'll be your secretary. So that's how I had this friend of mine who later on went to head Biocon Foundation. She joined me as my secretary for the first few years before I could get a sort of a professional secretary. Then, of course, I hired an accountant who needed a job. But the moment he got another job, he left me. So, those were the days. And then I couldn't get anyone to work for me in the factory. So I had to hire 2 retired tractor mechanics who really didn't mind what job they got. So that was my early days. Today, of course, things are different,
But Kiran, from what I heard, some of those initial people stayed with you for like decades together.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So clearly, I mean, you had some magic and
that was after the first struggle I had. So
Yes.
After the first struggle hiring people, I started reaching out to, scientists, engineers, because I felt they would be very excited with what I was doing. And so it is those people who stayed with me, my head of R&D, young student from IIT who was very excited with what I was doing. He'd heard about me. He came to me, discussed his project, asked me whether I could help him, mentor him. And then when he came to me for advice saying, now I need to do a PhD program, which university should I join? I said, join Biocon University. I said, instead of going to Rutgers and all these other places where you've got admission, why don't you do a real life PhD for me and run the R&D department? That's what he did.
Kiran, when in the initial days of Indigo, nobody wanted to come and work in an airline, right? I mean, even now, very few people want to bet their entire career on working in an airline. So for me, I was left with no choice but to just work with people who had the right attitude, but certainly not the right resume. And it seems like you had many of our, many of the people in the audience, as they're building teams, go to a headhunter. Here's the resume, and therefore no surprises that you're not able to get the right resume. So between the right resume and finding the right team, advice,
Yeah, I think, every one of my early employees happened through these kind of connections. So my chief financial officer actually came from my chartered accountant. He was actually doing a lot of our auditing. And I said to my chartered accountant, hey, listen, I really need a good financial person. And can you, allow him to come and be my chief financial officer? And he said, yeah, why not? He stayed with me for like over 25 years. My R&D head, of course, stayed for a long time.
Attrition is a big problem, right? Everybody keeps complaining about that. Do you think what made you keep the team together 3 decades ago has changed in any way now? How does one keep a team together for that sort of extended periods of time?
So I think you need to create a very close-knit leadership team who has a stake in the company, who believes in your vision and your purpose, because I think all businesses need to be led by purpose. So if you can get people to buy into your purpose, they're likely to stay. And, the leadership team that you create has to be someone who's really vested in your goals, your ambitions, your aspiration, and of course, your purpose. I've always believed that if you can identify very clearly what your business purpose is, people do remain with you. If you're in it just for fame and fortune, I think people will leave you. I've always told entrepreneurs, please don't focus on fame and fortune. Don't focus on valuations. It will happen if you're doing the right thing. If your purpose is clear, your vision is also very clear. I mean, I know that because I had a very strong and deep sense of purpose, my vision kept getting clearer and clearer and clearer.
I want to talk about that, Kiran. I mean, uh, many people, may be clear about the purpose, or some people may be clear about the purpose. But starting off entrepreneurs, it may look like a very fuzzy, hazy sort of vision out there. Did it the same thing happen to you, or were you kind of very clear, this is where I want to be? And how does one get comfortable with that?
So everyone starts with an idea, right? In my case, it was about enzyme technologies when I started. It was about enzyme technologies that were meant to basically, reduce chemical pollution because you were replacing a lot of chemical processes which were both polluting and highly energy intensive. So my sort of raison d'etre for pursuing enzyme technologies was, hey, this is such a cool idea. If I can replace chemical technologies with enzyme technologies which are eco-friendly and energy efficient, isn't that a nice thing to do for the planet? This was an idea way ahead of its time. In the 70s and 80s and 90s, one hardly talked about climate change and sustainability. But we were very driven by the fact that we were actually making a positive impact on the environment, on the ecology. And I think all of us believed that we were doing great things. So to buy into that vision is extremely important. And so we just went in with a couple of enzymes to begin with. But then because we were sort of focused on our vision of, greening the planet, so to speak, or greening industry, so to speak, we could identify industrial processes that needed to be cleaned up, if you know what I mean. So your vision gets clearer and clearer as to what kind of technologies should you pursue and why should you pursue it, and what impact will it make on the environment. So your vision gets much clearer as you go along. And then there came a time when my vision changed because I got into biopharmaceuticals. And of course, those trigger points came from personal experiences which led to it. So for instance, I suddenly saw that India was at the epicenter of diabetes. We were the diabetes capital of the world. And insulin dependent patients could only afford animal insulins. Barely 10% of those insulin dependent patients could afford what was then referred to as recombinant human insulin because it was just unaffordable. And I said, hey, that gives me an idea. Why can't I leverage our recombinant DNA technology that we've developed for enzymes and see whether we can develop insulin out of it? Because after all, inserting a gene, the organism is agnostic to whether it's insulin or an enzyme. So using that technology base, we actually developed our first recombinant human insulin in India, and I became a disruptive force because that was the first time we were quickly able to, get the prices of recombinant human insulin down to 10% of what they were. And I forced even the innovators to reduce their price because suddenly we became very strong competitors and they had no option but to reduce the price. And today, not a single patient in India uses animal insulins because recombinant human insulins is cheaper than animal insulins.
Kiran, let me. Amazing.
And today, thanks to that, decision we took in the year 2000, we are the third largest insulin producer in the world. We have our own proprietary platform technology because I use that proprietary enzyme technology to make it. So there are technically only 3 technologies in the world. One is what is called as a Saccharomyces technology, which is what Novo practices, E. coli technology, which Lilly practices, and Pichia pastoris, which Biocon practices. So we are 3 distinct
in the entire world
global insulin companies with its own technology platform.
Wow.
So that's what gave me the confidence to do things then. And then my best friend was, suddenly
I want to
had
talk about that.
had
So I want to talk
breast
about
cancer.
I want to talk about cancer. Right? Your best friend Nilima was diagnosed with cancer. There's a very deeply caring side to of Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw that I probably very few people know. You apparently took care of her for 6 years. You went on a holiday to Spain. She comes back and she passes away within 60 days. A year later, John gets diagnosed with cancer. More recently, your mother was diagnosed with cancer.
Well, about 10 years ago, my mother just passed away, but she didn't die of cancer, but she was diagnosed with cancer.
Do you sometimes feel exasperated and ask, why me?
No, because I understand cancer. And it all started with my friend Nilima being diagnosed with breast cancer. And then when she was going through her treatment, she needed a drug called Herceptin. And she was a very well-to-do professional. She was very successful. She was earning very well. And even she found it hard to afford that treatment. And I used to offer her help. I said, Nilima, I'm going to pay for your treatment. And she was too proud. She said, no, I'll sell my property and pay for my treatment. I want to afford my own treatment. I don't want to take it from any one of you. But she had to sell her property to pay for her treatment. I said, what kind of injustice is this? Why should this drug cost so much? So I went to my scientists and said, hey guys, we must develop this drug. So we started developing this drug, in 2008. And in 2017, we were the first company globally to get US FDA approval for biosimilar trastuzumab, and we brought down the prices crashing down. And this drug, which most cancer patients in India could not afford unless they were very wealthy, today every patient who needs it gets it.
How much of your entrepreneurial journey has been a personal passion and emotion versus a pure economic opportunity that you saw?
So obviously something has to trigger a need to get into some new space, right? So that was certainly triggered, not that I had anyone who suffered from diabetes, but I looked at it as a national need. So that triggered that thing for insulin for me. Cancer, of course, was far more personal. And once I got into, the cancer space, obviously I wanted to expand it to many other products. So cancer, I realize, is a very, very, big unmet need in our country. So not only did I, of course, start developing a large number of cancer molecules, I also created the Mazumdar-Shaw Cancer Center through my philanthropy. And most recently, I also co-founded a very important company called Immunil, which plans to offer CAR T therapies at a very affordable price point. Today, CAR T therapy is an amazing therapy, which is called autologous cell therapy. So what you do is you take patients who have various types of blood cancers like lymphomas or leukemias or myelomas, and you take their T cells, you engineer those T cells, expand them and put them back into the same patient, and it just targets all those cancer cells and kills them. And it's like these patients they've almost got a death sentence of 2 or 3 months left. And then you almost like bring them back to life and cure them. And the remission can be as long as 4 or 5 years. and they lead a very normal life. So I think this is an excellent technology, and India was nowhere on the map of this CAR-T world. And so Siddharth Mukherjee, who's a very famous oncologist, he's reached out to me saying, listen, Kiran, we have to do something about it. I will help you if you're willing to set it up in India. And we did that. And we've just infused or in the process of infusing our 10th patient. And so far, most of those patients who have undergone this therapy are in, I mean, all of them in a month's time, they are in remission. And we're now hoping that, it makes a huge difference to these patients. So these are all, children who have leukemia, adults who have leukemia and lymphoma and myelomas. And these are really nasty diseases. So, once I got into cancer, I realized what an unmet need there is. Because most cancers are still not curable. Some of them, early diagnosis does, help you to avoid any kind of relapse. But there are many, many cancers that still don't have any treatment, pancreatic cancers, brain tumors. Many of these just don't have any lasting treatments. So I think what also motivates me is taking on these kind of challenges. These are those grand challenges anywhere in the world. So I think that's why once I got into cancer, it was because of my friend. But then later on, I got into cancer, got very interested and started expanding our business in those areas.
A friend of yours told me that Kiran is passionate about doing good, right? And then he also said to me, whatever you ask Kiran, she will end up giving more, right? This is what he said to me.
If I believe in it, yes.
Yes. So, and you talked about how, companies should be purpose driven. And I was talking about this very same theme at the Entrepreneurs India conference only day before yesterday. Somebody in the question asked me a question, and I'd like to pose it to you, saying, how do you manage the conflict between doing good and doing well?
You can do both.
Yeah.
In our business, in fact, what really gives me a lot of sense of achievement, satisfaction, and motivation is the fact that we are a company driven by a sense of purpose, which is about access and affordability. Because I see health equity being very central to our business purpose.
Did your doing well sometimes slow down because you were trying to do good as well?
No. I always say to people, for me, it's not about $1 billion, it's about serving 1 billion patients. If you serve 1 billion patients, that business is going to be worth billions of dollars. But if you focus on being $1 billion drug, you lose the plot. So that's my way of looking at it. And so today, our theme is about making global impact through affordable access to life-saving and essential drugs. I've turned the Western model upside down. The Western model is about targeting affluent countries with affluent patients who can afford their drugs. So it's a small volume, high value business model that they pursue. We actually do it the other way around. I want to serve patients anywhere and everywhere. So it's a high volume, low value business that actually then delivers health equity to all. After all, we are in a humanitarian business. And if it's the same analogy that you use for a mobile phone. Either you price your mobile phone very high and only serve a small percentage of people and make lots of profit, or you serve a huge number of people at a lower price and still make lots of profit.
Anybody in Bangalore always tells me, you are like, deeply passionate and connected with making a difference to the city of Bangalore. Right? City Connect, the urban road, execution thing. Lakshmi mentioned it to me. And of course, I've heard this over and over again. while building a multi-billion dollar business, have you always been like this? Or when you became, if you don't mind my saying, you became rich and then said, you know what, I'm going to carve out time to make a difference.
No, I've always been like this
how did that
because I
happen?
just feel that, as citizens, we also owe it to our cities to make some time for your cities. After all, you want to live in a good city. I'm a stickler. It really pains me when I see my streets littered, or when I see all this garbage, uncollected garbage, or when I see roads in a bad shape, yeah, which is happening all the time in Bangalore. Bangalore used to be a wonderful city, okay, when Biocon was growing up. And then somewhere in the mid 90s, we started losing track of growth, and there was a lot of unplanned growth, and then the city grew at a pace that couldn't keep up with infrastructure, and of course today it's a mess. But having said that, we still work very closely with the government. I'm happy that we have a government that still is willing to work with us, is willing to listen to us. And now that this recent flooding happened, even though it happened in a very small part of the city and it got blown up, um, I think they realized that they can't afford to neglect this city anymore.
So you do all these multiple things, and your husband John said that there's only one superstar in the family, and that's my wife, and I am the support system. How often do you have to lean into that support system, and how do our younger entrepreneurs create a support system that they can lean on to?
Well, I have to lean on the support system all the time. I think we all need a support system. My husband has been my greatest anchor. He's not too well now, so I can't lean on him as much as I used to. But my family is also my support system. I think all of us, whether you're a man or a woman, you need a very strong support system at home. And I think you must lean towards that support system because they keep you grounded. I think it's only your families that can tell you, and your friends who can tell you whether you're wrong. And I think we need to listen to our support system and need to listen to when we are wrong, and we are wrong many and most of the time. So I think it's important to have that sounding board and that support.
Some of our younger members are from family-owned businesses. So I was having a conversation with one of them, and she was talking about the challenge of sitting at the dining table and make herself heard, even though she is today running a part of the business, in a multi-generational, intergenerational business. How is it to work with family?
So obviously, I'm not one who belongs to a family-owned business. But let me put it this way, that of course, in my case, I've encouraged my family to participate in giving me ideas about the business, or telling me what is right and wrong. My husband, of course, has been my greatest sounding board, and he's often told me what's right and what's wrong. And sometimes I listen to him, sometimes I don't. We might care to disagree, but I think it is very important to be heard. It is very important to have a discussion. Even if you are not heard, you should say, tell me why I'm wrong. That itself grabs attention. So if you're on the dining table having a discussion about what you're doing with the business, and if you feel that you're not being heard, you have to say, hey, I feel this way, tell me why I'm wrong. That itself starts a conversation. But you must have a discussion, because the moment you say that, people start listening to you.
Speaking of listening, what's on your playlist these days? What are you listening to? Do you listen to music? Is that something that relaxes you, or something else?
Oh, I listen to all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So, of course, I listen to old music. On the WhatsApp, they keep sending you all these old songs, which of course I keep listening to when they send it to me. I listen to podcasts. I listen to obviously a lot of contemporary news. I don't watch any Indian channel these days.
I wonder why.
But I do listen to a lot of interesting, sort of debates and discussions on other channels. And then, of course, there's a lot of WhatsApp messages which are quite interesting sometimes about new technologies or sharing something very interesting about countries or some new holiday destination or whatever it is.
I believe you learned Hindustani classical music, right?
I did, yes.
I didn't. I think many people don't know this. You actually learned from Ghulam Rasul Khan, you nephew
Wow.
of Fayaz Khan, and do you still sing?
No, I don't. I mean, to really sing Hindustani classical music, you really need to do riyaz, and I don't have time for that. But listen to a lot of that music. I have a lot of interest in Indian classical music. I go for concerts. I exchange a lot of music on my mobile phone, and I listen to it quite often. My late mother and I used to really, really share a lot of these videos of old, videos of even Fayaz Khan and Bade Ghulam Ali Khan and many of those
On
great
my
singers.
last trip to Calcutta, I went to Free School Street and bought. I thought I'm going to go buy a few long playing records. I think I came back with 4 boxes of long playing records. Yeah. You're a huge patron of the arts. And now you're deeply involved as one of the founding patrons of MAP, the new museum in Bangalore. The auditorium is named after you. Tell me about that.
First and foremost, I like to support any initiative where the promoter is passionate about what they're doing. And Abhishek Podar, who started this whole concept of MAP, I remember it was maybe about 10 years ago or less. The government of Karnataka actually came up with a very interesting
Abhishek
idea.
is relentless.
Yeah, he's relentless.
He just keep going.
Yeah. So Karnataka government had come up with a very interesting concept of adopt a museum. And they came to us and they said, hey, who's willing to adopt these great museums that we have on that Kasturba Road? It's in a very sad state of neglect. But if you guys take it up, it will be great. So Abhishek Podar decided to adopt the Venkatappa Art Gallery and create a modern art, contemporary art museum. I decided to adopt the Vishweshwaraya Technology Museum and create a science museum out of that. And Sangeeta Jindal decided to adopt the Natural History Museum and make it into a heritage museum. So we were all, designing these museums and how we were going to, go about it, blah, blah, blah. And you can imagine Abhishek already had got into this advanced design planning stage where he said, no, we should connect all of them and this is how it will look. And we want people to come there. And, it was this great concept we had. And lo and behold, we had a huge protest from citizens and artists. Oh, these are all people who are trying to usurp the government museums. They're going to privatize it. They're going to keep people out of it. It'll only be for the rich. And huge problem we had. And even though the government was on our side, they had a huge problem. Yeah. So finally, Abhishek and I said, forget it. I don't. Even the Vishweshwaraya Technology Museum, the director himself was very upset because he thought that they would all lose their jobs and I would take over and, this kind of insecurities. So I told Abhishek, let's quietly get out of it. I don't want to do anything if this is the protest we are going to get and the backlash, because our intentions are so honest, but look at the way the people are reacting. So we said, fine, we will walk out of it. So we walked out of that partnership with the government. The government was very sad because they had a great idea. And then I did, so what was happening at that time was we were creating Science Gallery Bengaluru. Again, the government of Karnataka had given a pretty generous capital to start Science Gallery Bengaluru as a part of Science Gallery International. So there are only seven science galleries around the world under this umbrella of Science Gallery International. I was, of course, I'm the Irish Consul General in India because of my Irish connection. And it was Trinity College Dublin that actually started this concept of science gallery. That's how it came to India. And then there's Australia, there's one in Melbourne, there's one in London, there's one in Detroit, there's one in Venice, there's one in Stockholm and Bangalore. Okay, so we've just created, I mean, this now the Science Gallery Bengaluru is going to have a soft opening in November this year. And it's an amazing concept because it's about connecting science to society. And it's a living contemporary exhibition all the time, teaching public at large what science is about, getting public engaged with science so that we can have a scientific temper, a scientific discussion, and people get the facts. Okay.
So let me get it right.
Actually have invested in that as a philanthropy along with Chris Gopalakrishnan and Rohini Nilekarni. So now we've created that. Instead of the Vishweshwaraya Technology Institute, we've created Science Gallery Bengaluru.
So let me get it right now. Brewing, biotechnology, art, cancer drugs, Hindustani classical music, science museum. So the last question. What's your dream now? What's your personal dream?
Well, I think I just want to be remembered for having made a difference to patients in the developing world, in the, someone who's remembered for making some difference to health equity in the world. I want to be remembered, at least in our country, obviously for initiating the biotech revolution. And I also want to be remembered for making a big difference to women in science, women as economic entities who are now participating in the economic mainstream. And of course, I also want to somehow be remembered for someone who had multifaceted interests that go beyond science. So to me, MAP, which is what then Abhishek did, saying, okay, forget about Venkatappa Art Gallery, let's create our own art gallery. And it's actually diagonally opposite Venkatappa Art Gallery.
It'll open up in December.
And it's going to be one of the most amazing art museums in India.
Well, I think every one of us will certainly remember this conversation. Ladies, Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw.
This is an inspiration to another. As women, we should not doubt our skills, talents, and accomplishments.
Research and science is what you want to do. It requires an extra
tremendous job.
So it gives you
I think
perspective
he is a very unassuming, understated entrepreneur who's just done tremendously well. I think he deserves a huge round of applause. Amazing. And we all wish you well with Akasa.
Oh yeah, okay. Abha, you want to come up, please?
Could not be separated.
Sure.
Group picture also with some of our members, and we have a gift for you.
Yes. So Abha, will you join me in giving the gift?
We should keep it. Don't let anyone tell you
CEO of
It should be just because you are a woman. Let your creativity, curiosity, and your passion guide you in your career choice.
Sometimes circumstances may not be in your favor, but you stay positive and focused. The solution will always be within your reach.
if you like science, just go for it. It will give you tremendous opportunities to learn, to explore, to interact with people.
If you're passionate about something, it doesn't matter what hurdles you face, you'll always overcome it.
Women can make a huge impact.
Do not stop chasing your dreams, chase it and you'll definitely reach it.
And your passion guide you in your career choice.
Sometimes circumstances may not be in your favor, but